rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Well, here's some interesting stuff in the news today, but it wasn't that heavy of a news day, so I've got a smattering of all different kinds of stuff in here for it. But I do have a bit of a surprise for all of you. And that will be in just a minute. Plus, I have a segment for highlighting America. I know that segment doesn't come up very often, but there was a wonderful video that was shared by Hat Tip Graham to Graham Allen for it. And yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. I'm being pinged by my unofficial producer to do on this day, so I better get on my keister and let's get things rolling. So tonight's Pledge of Allegiance is going to be by Judge Wild. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with Judge Wild as he recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh yeah, hurrah!
All right, and of course I thank you, Judge Wild, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself reciting or performing the pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, and attach it to an email. Send that email off to me. Send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will get you into the rotation. I've got 21 of these things. I'd like to get 26 by the end of 2026. So that means I need 5 more. If you haven't sent it in, please do so. Also, if you do it on your phone, you can hit the share option. That's the S-H-A-R-E option, the share option. And I will be able to get you into the rotation. And you can send that off, by the way, to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. Yeah, I'll be able to get you into the rotation as well. So, hopefully, sorry, I had something on my phone I was looking at, so hopefully you'll be able to go ahead and do that. So there we go. Oh, I'm supposed to open one of the bottles behind me. Well, that would be great. I'll open the bottle. I'll open the one that's sitting on my desk, though. It's Jefferson's Reserve right here. Very old Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. So there you go. Very small batch Jefferson's Reserve, and it is in a fabulous gifted glass. It takes stones to drink with whiskey, and there are the requisite stones. Yep. 3 Chevy is back to Yoda again. Drink with whiskey you will, then stones you must have. Anyway, here we go. Go ahead and take the requisite first sip. Yeah, that's some good stuff. So I washed my microphone. You may have saw last night how the microphone didn't have my usual foam cover on there. So I washed it, and now it smells like the soap. Well, it's a lot better than what it was before in terms of the soap. But anyway, so now I got my little mic buff back on there, and it looked a little deformed. I don't know if you guys can see this, but there's like bumps on it now. Yeah, it's picked up some hair and things like that again. Trying to get that clean, but anyway, there it is. So we'll go ahead and put that back over the mic. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So we got that. Now, let's get on to our headline sponsor, which is, of course, the Institute on the Constitution. You can go and find their website. Go to theamericanview.com, theamericanview.com, and you can go and check out all of their wonderful things. They have a 3-step process to help them because they have a mission to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education from a biblical worldview. Here's their website at theamericanview.com, and their 3 steps to restore the republic. Number 1, obviously, to pray. Number 2, you need to study. And by studying, in order to help you study, they recommend you go to their website, click on the study option, and then you'll see this form right above me, right above my head. Put in your name. That's your first and last name. Put in your name and then enter your email. Click Get Lesson 1 free. It's actually the entire course is free, okay? It's 100% free online course. It's 12 lessons, roughly about 15, 20 minutes long. They got little videos and stuff that you can watch. It's sent to your email inbox automatically every single week. So start with that course. And then once you finish that, maybe attend one of their in-person courses. They have 4 of them. You can explore those live classes all over the place. Here's where you can sign up for those. And you just go and register for the class. They've got a bunch of different ones out there. And, of course, once you do that, then you can help them with the last option or the last thing to do, which is to act. And when you want to act by becoming an instructor. Become an instructor for them and host your own courses in your own neighborhoods and, talk about the Constitution. Again, this is grassroots education. Talk about the Constitution and get it done. Become an instructor. And, they have 4 instructor levels. That was my fault. 4 instructor levels you can go and do, but how to become an IOTC instructor right here is the video. You can go and check that out. It's the one that I'm flashing in dark right there on the screen. Go and grab that. And then they also give you tips for a successful class. They help you to make things successful. Go to the Institute on the Constitution and get your instructor's kit. They have a bunch of books and things like that all put together for you. And you can get your instructor kit online and then share the class for others. Take it to the next level and become a certified instructor, a platinum instructor, a chapter leader. That's right. Yeah, that's what you need to do. Go and help them out to become in their mission for the grassroots education. And the other thing you can do is you can check out their shop, and in their shop they have this place called the Legacy Library. The Legacy Library has books like these in leather bound. This is the leather bound U.S. Constitution. This is fantastic, and if you want to go and get this, you can just go direct to constitution.americanperspective.online. It's got nice, sexy, rounded corners, according to my Rumble Whiskey Warriors. According to Nana, my unofficial producer, she says, the stitching is so strong it can hold your sanity together on rough days. And apparently, 3 Chevy thinks that each book is stitched with genuine leather stitching strong enough to actually hold up Jerry Natler's pants. So here you go. It's got 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant. No cheap glue here. That's the stitching they're talking about right there. Stitched all the way through the book and the pages contained within. It's got a 100-year warranty against materials. and workmanship defects that if something does go wrong, you send it back to the manufacturer and they will either fix it or replace it for free. It is buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved. My youngest whiskey warrior has confirmed that the information contained within will help you to receive your civics badge in scouting, as well as probably pass that civics exam. You'll definitely know more than the Democrats in Congress, and even some Republicans in Congress, too. For sure. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online to get yours today, and don't forget to hit up the rest of the Institute on the Constitution's offerings at theamericanview.com. Find out all kinds of information about our wonderful country and learn about it. Help them in their grassroots educational mission, and then eventually become an instructor, of course. So head on over to theamericanview.com or constitution.americanperspective.online, and you'll be able to partake in all kinds of stuff with them. So theamericanview.com, go and check them out, and I thank them for being a show sponsor. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get our first segment going, which is, of course, On This Day in American History. And, of course, for On This Day in American History, we read from the American Patriot's Almanac, which is written by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb. It is chock full of all kinds of little factoids about this great country that we call home. As you can see, we're just starting back over. It goes day by day. It's a calendar day-by-day thing. And, yeah, there you go. Oh, look at that. Ms. T has gifted subscriptions to the channel. Thank you, Ms. T. And, of course, she says, Happy Valentine's Day, y'all. All right. All right, and here we go. Today, being February 14th, you'll never guess it's Valentine's Day. And what usually happens on Valentine's Day? Well, usually the husbands race out last minute and get bundles of flowers. And what do they usually come? Well, they're roses. Well, guess what? The rose is the national flower. Fossils reveal that they've grown as a wildflower in America for more than 35 million years. George Washington himself bred them and named a variety after his mother. The White House has a famous garden full of them, where presidents often welcome distinguished guests and heads of state. As Ronald Reagan once noted, we lavish them on our altars, our civil shrines, and the final resting places of our honored dead. And, of course, millions of people give them today, Valentine's Day. They are America's favorite flower and loved the world over. For all those reasons, in 1986, Congress and President Reagan proclaimed the rose as the national flower of the United States. Americans have always loved the flowers with which God decorates our land, Reagan said in his proclamation. More often than any other flower, we hold the rose dear as the symbol of life, love, and devotion, of beauty and eternity. For the love of man and woman, for the love of mankind and God, for the love of country, Americans who would speak the language of the heart do so with a rose. And there you go. That's it right there, the national flower, the rose. Although I don't think the rose garden is rose garden anymore. I can't remember if Trump has taken care of it or not. You know, if he took it out or whatever. But anyway, so that is tonight's On This Day in American History. All right. Well, obviously, we're starting, this is 2026. And we're starting to get into the mid-year or midterms? Yeah, for the midterms. We call them the midterms because it's the middle of the term of the president of the United States. So that's what they call them, the midterms. But we're getting ready to go into midterm election season. And also, too, some important state elections are coming up. None so important than, of course, the California, at least as far as that goes, California gubernatorial race. Well, apparently, according to a poll done by Interactive Polls, the governor's race, which, by the way, the top two in the primaries. So California is apparently a top two primary race. So therefore, the top two people who gain the most votes move on to the actual election. And as of right now, according to Interactive Polls, Chad Bianco has 16% of the vote. Steve Hilton has 15% of the vote. Eric Swalwell, yes, that's right, Chinese Bang Bang of Fang Fang, himself has 14% of the vote. Katie Porter, well, I had a story on her not too long ago where she was just a total witch to people. She has 13% of the vote. Tom Steyer has 8% of the vote. And Matt Mahan, or Mahan, however it's pronounced, has 3% of the vote. Well, the thing that's kind of interesting is that you only have 1 percentage point separating the top four, and that's the two Republicans, Chad Bianco and Steve Hilton, on top of Eric Swalwell and Katie Porter. Well, when races are tight, and we all know this, in American politics, it doesn't matter. It's all mudslinging is what it ends up being. But especially when races are really, really tight, the candidates find as whatever kind of chink in the armor of their opponents that they can possibly do it. Every single time. And, well, this is no different. So do you remember back with back when the government was shut down and Eric Swalwell put out a video on X where he was talking about the government shutdown and he was trying to like rip Donald Trump on the whole shutdown thing, even though it was the Democrats that did it. Democrats are the ones that shut everything down. Well, his opponent, Tom Steyer, who Steyer is like way down in the poll. I think he was running at like 8%. But Tom Steyer went ahead and put together the first, as far as I know, of this election season attack ad for the gubernatorial race in California. Some of this will look familiar, but go ahead and take a listen. It's about 30 seconds long or so. So let's go ahead and take a look.
I should be working right now. I should be working right now. I should be at the Capitol. I should be in Congress. I should be in a suit. I should be working right now. But instead, I'm in a pool.
All right, I'm going to run that again because I realized as we got halfway through it that the audio portion of the program isn't going to be able to see everything. You can hear the typing in the background, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and talk or give you what the words say. So here, Eric Swalwell's in the pool.
I should be working right now.
And then it goes, Eric Swalwell's job is to vote in Congress.
I should be working right now.
Yeah, he's weightlifting. And then it says, in 2025, Eric Swalwell missed 95 votes.
I should be at the Capitol.
Yeah. And then he says that's more than Representative Raul Giralva missed, and a Representative Giralda died in March of 2025, it types.
I should be in Congress.
Since declaring for governor, Eric Swalwell has missed 68% of the votes it's his job to take.
I should be in a suit.
He hasn't been showing up for work, and now he's asking for a promotion.
I should be working right now.
Yeah.
But instead, I'm in a pool.
Oh, so Tom Steyer put that together. Tom Steyer for governor. So, yeah, the fight is on, folks. Here we go. There's the mudslinging at start. You know, I'm wondering if they're actually going to pull up the old Fang Fang thing, the bang bang of Fang Fang, and say something like how Eric Swalwell, slept with a Chinese spy, a known Chinese spy. I'm sure that's coming. Or maybe even the one where he farted on national television while he was being questioned. I think it was on CNN or something like that. Yeah, let's go with that one, too. Yeah, anyway. Oh, yeah. Well, there's even more than that for that. The gubernatorial candidates are actually even hitting the outgoing governor, Governor Gavin Newsom. So apparently there is a Doge in California. It's called Cal Doge. So no matter how much Gavin Newsom gallivants around Europe, yeah, he's over in Europe gallivanting, trying to expose or trying to act as though he has got presidential creds, which he doesn't. And he's trying to pretend that he isn't the person that drove California into a ditch, which he did. His own state's fraud and corruption clings to him like cheap cologne. Actually, what you're smelling is that grease in his hair, probably, his hair gel. But the Cal Doge team, who is being led by Republican gubernatorial candidate Steve Hilton, is hard at work to ensure Newsom will never be able to separate himself from the corruption that he furthered both before and during his 8-year accidental governorship. So Cal Doge has the first report out of the gate, and it's exposing the California Cannabis Tax Fund shell game. The game, of course, was done and engineered by none other than Hair Gel himself. So apparently when Newsom was lieutenant governor, he was the face of and the staunch advocate for marijuana legalization with his Proposition 64, which is called the California Cannabis Tax Fund Act. Legalizing cannabis distribution and use throughout the state, the proceeds were supposed to be used for substance abuse prevention. However, after its passage in 2016, Newsom took a victory lap and made this proclamation to one of his favorite news outlets. He was saying that, put it this way, if everything that goes wrong, you're looking at the poster child. That's what he said. Well, behold the poster child. So apparently Cal Doge found $370.25 million later that reveals where the money actually went. That's 6 years later. It went into a sprawling network of 517 grants funding political organizing, voter registration drives, and social justice youth development, which was all administered by a single nonprofit intermediary that most Californians have never even heard of. So the cannabis tax proceeds, for those that don't understand this, were supposed to be distributed through California's Department of Health Care Services. However, DHCS has disconnected itself from the process. Instead, it is contracted with the center at the Sierra Health Foundation, which is a 501c3 organization, that supposedly acts as the de facto bank for the state's equity prevention and youth funding. Now, the Sierra Health Foundation, or center at the Sierra Health Foundation, takes as much as 20% off the top for administration fees. It uses that same application process to sub-grant whatever is remaining to community-based organizations. But the state doesn't get to pick who the grants are. The intermediary does, meaning the center at the Sierra Health Foundation. Yeah. Hold on. She is coming back. All right. We have a technical difficulty. It is coming back slowly. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. So the pipeline starts at the governor's office. The relationship between the Sierra between the center at the Sierra Health Foundation and the governor extends well beyond the standard contact. According to California Fair Political Practices Commission's Behest Payment Transparency Report, in 2020 alone, the Sierra Health Foundation was the third largest payer of behested payments statewide at $14,747,724, and the single largest payee of behested payments statewide at $30,869,901. Payments that Newsom himself solicited from private companies. By the way, Newsom himself was the top behesting official in the state that year, with a total of $226.8 million, and the Sierra Health Foundation ranked among his top 3 financial partners of the system. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, voters approved the cannabis tax revenue that was supposed to go to substance abuse prevention. The DHCS redefined prevention to include, I don't know what kind of prevention this is, but political organizing. And then, of course, went and buried it inside the grant criteria of a nonprofit intermediary that most Californians have never heard from. The 2 biggest recipients of that money, Elevate Youth, which does apparently social justice, youth development, and civic engagement. And the other one is the United Way of Santa Cruz County, which focuses on activism of the BILPOC, whatever that is, and the LGBTQ plus minus divided by sign, ampersand, / / equals, whatever. Youth families. That's right. So, yeah. The $370.25 million was not distributed through a handful of large auditable contracts. It was actually dispersed across 517 individual grants. Each one of those was averaging $716,150 each. No single grant large enough to trigger the intensive audit scrutiny. There you go. So, yeah. And this is according to Cal Doge's partnership with a company called Rhetor, RHETOR. To use their AI technology, they were able to unearth this fraud beneath the supposed legitimate layers. Right. So it cross-referenced RFA language, grant award descriptions, cost per participant calculations, and program outcome reporting across the full portfolio of 517 grants. The pattern detection surfaced what no individual audit could, which was a systemic reclassification of political organizing as public health spending, replicated across hundreds of awards. More fraud from a Democrat state and a Democrat candidate. There we go. So, the Cal Doge report concluded with this line: the question now is whether Californians will act or wait until Sacramento sends the next $370 million into the same pipeline. So, yeah. There you go. Well, gearing up for the elections. Oh, wait. Hold on, before I get too far into this, I got to introduce you to the newest addition to the American Perspective podcast, whatever you call this thing. This is President Predicto. Here you are. This is President Predicto. So let's ask President Predicto. President Predicto, do you think that Eric Swalwell is going to win the gubernatorial race in California?
I would say maybe.
Uh-oh. There we go. President Predicto has spoken. There we go. Yeah, I was thinking you guys would like that. But we'll bring out President Predicto at another time. I think he's going to be making a lot of appearances on this show. But anyway, so there it is. President Predicto has said that looks like Eric Swalwell might become the governor of the state of California. Oh, I hope not. I really hope not, but damn. Anyway, speaking of predictions and things of that nature, well, the Virginia Supreme Court has decided to stick their damn nose into the electoral maps. So you have Texas had theirs go all the way to SCOTUS. It passed. Then California had it go all the way to the SCOTUS. It passed. So now, the Virginia Supreme Court has decided to hand Democrats in Virginia a huge win. So the Democrats in Virginia, of course, have been trying to gerrymander their state. And according to the original lower court ruling, they lost at first because the lower court ruling had found that the Democrats had failed to follow their own rules for adding the redistricting amendment to a special session and failed to approve the amendment before the public began voting in last year's general election, and of course failed to publish the amendment 3 months before the election as required by law. Well, unfortunately, the Supreme Court said, well, we're not going to stop the April 21st referendum. They denied the motion for the stay, meaning that the constitutional amendment will actually go forward before the court decides the merits. They declined to do it. So the Virginians will vote first, and then the Virginia Supreme Court will rule on it later. Yeah. All right. So, Once again, the Democrats have, flipped things around. Yeah, we're going to do it our way. We did it our way. Yeah, that's old Blue Eyes. Well, let's ask President Predicto, do you think that Virginia is going to change its voting laws? Do you think it's going to go on the ballot? On the ballot. Here we go.
I don't think so.
Oh, well, maybe, just maybe, it's going to go on the ballot and it'll get crushed. Well, let's hope. Maybe there might be enough people in Virginia that actually don't think that that's a good idea. Anyway. All right. Well, of course, we know about the SAVE Act, which is the Voter ID Act, is up for debate, vote and debate in the Senate. Well, the GOP, they had their choice and troll moments, I should say. Choice and troll moments. When the Democrats were opposing, of course, they all opposed it, but opposing the voter ID. So it was kind of interesting. One of them, Representative Michael Cloud of Texas, he wrote on X, it's notable that 213 Democrats just used their congressional photo ID to vote no on a voter ID bill. So the House rules require members to actually insert their identification card before voting on the legislation. So, yeah. By the way, on Friday, the Republican National Committee released a video from February 7th, from a February 7th Senator John Ossoff, who is a Democrat from Georgia, a rally that he held, where a particular attendee was asked multiple times by multiple event staffers to provide proper identification before the event. Yeah. So, there you go. Johnson even pointed out that leader Steve Scalise noted that Senator Ossoff, had this big event there. And as you know, he said that the SAVE Act is a bad faith bill clinically intended to disenfranchise millions of eligible voters. But then he pointed out that the senator's own event was by ID verification only. Yeah. They're trolling him. Other Democrats, of course, have been arguing against it. And in fact, even, John Fetterman said that he believes in ID to vote, but in a move that's sort of ironic, he said that he won't support the SAVE Act, which doesn't make any sense. Well, the SAVE Act passed the House, moved over into the Senate, and now we have at least one rhino has signed on. So Senator Collins went ahead and committed to the fact that she is behind the bill. So they have 50 guaranteed votes now. So they have 50 guaranteed votes. Here's the thing. J.D. Vance, of course, would be a tiebreaker. And so J.D. Vance himself could be the tiebreaker on this. Now, it does not pass the filibuster-proof majority of 60 votes, but at least it gets you to the majority, and that would be after a talking filibuster. So, by the way, the bill still has to get past the whole cloture thing. And there's going to be a lot of pressure on the Senate Republican leadership to do something about the filibuster itself, which is what the cloiture is. There may be enough votes to abolish it, but that would, of course, turn around and bite the GOP maybe later. There are almost certainly not enough votes to reinstate the talking filibuster afterward, which would require Senator Schumer or one of his minions to stand up and pour out the usual Democrat crap until they at least get too tired to go on, or the Senate chamber collapses under the influence of the hot air. Anyway, they will claim that this act will disadvantage. This is what the Democrats claim. They claim that the act is going to disenfranchise women and minority voters. Again, how? Like our good old buddy Scott Jennings. How? How is that going to happen? So, yeah. Now, Majority Leader Thune is, of course, saying that they aren't anywhere close to the votes needed to change the Senate's filibuster rule anyway, to allow the sponsored regulation to reform to pass the upper chamber without or with less than 60 votes. So, yeah. Anyway, they have to get past that cloiture part. But that being said, at least they have 50 votes. So they know that they probably could get the majority, but they have to get past the filibuster and cloiture first. So there you go. Anyway. This SAVE Act, which actually would save America, by the way. Totally would save America. From the Democrats themselves, which is part of the reason why they don't want to pass it. Part of the reason why they don't want to pass it. Anyway. Well, we know that Donald Trump, he's said certain things in the past with regards to stuff. And I've mentioned, there have been a couple times where I've been like, look, I don't think he can do this. I don't think he can do this. As much as I appreciate Donald Trump for everything that he's doing, there are times where he steps off the podium and I'm sitting there going, what in the hell are you thinking, sir? He apparently is now thinking about creating a voter ID executive order to lock down the midterms and beyond. Now, he announced this late yesterday. He plans to pursue an executive order to enforce strict voter ID requirements nationwide. And he's vowing that it will happen for the 2026 midterms, regardless of what happens with the SAVE Act in Congress. Well, here's the thing, folks. I'm just telling you right now. This executive order, it's not binding. It will likely get challenged in court. It will highly likely get thrown out in court because of the plain and simple fact that the Constitution clearly states that the states and Congress are the two that handle voting and voting regulations. The president doesn't have anything to do other than enforcing whatever regulations Congress comes up with. And unfortunately, Donald Trump sometimes he tends to pop out things that just don't make sense. Now, I understand he's trying. I get it. He wants it done, and let's be honest, in the court of public opinion, he could probably sway, not like it really matters, because 83% of the country actually believes that we should be using photo ID to vote. But he's sitting here and he's kind of like making, he's making let's put it this way. He's putting it into the court of public opinion and he's trying to make the Democrats do. Or at least some of the wavering Democrats, the ones that maybe are looking at potentially getting trounced in the midterms. trying to put them on notice maybe, or something along those lines. So he wrote on True Social, he says, the Democrats refused to vote for voter ID or citizenship. The reason is very simple. They want to continue to cheat in elections. This is not what our founders desired. I have searched the depths of legal arguments not yet articulated or vetted on this subject and will be presenting an irrefutable one in the very near future. There will be voter ID for the midterms, whether approved by Congress or not. Also, the people of our country are insisting on citizenship and no mail-in ballots, with the exceptions for the military, disability, illness. Let's see. What is he saying? What else? Anyway. Let me see. I gotta open it up. Hold on. Yeah, military, illness, or travel. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Well, unfortunately, and then, of course, he followed it up with a fiery follow-up, and he goes, the Republicans must pass this at the top of every speech. It is a can't miss for re-election in the midterms and beyond. You see where he's going with this? He's putting pressure on those who are vulnerable in the midterms. And he's not wrong. I mean, the vast majority of Americans, even 71% of Democrats, all believe that voter ID is a thing that should happen. But all of that being said, he's not able, and I'm just speaking to you as a strict constitutionalist, he's not able to just create an executive order to legislate executively. Obama, famously known for saying that all he had to do to rule the country or guide the country, run the country, was he had a phone and a pen. We all know that that was false. But the Democrats let him get away with it because that's the things that they wanted done. Well, anyway. The president did, though, he was talking about this. He's already anticipating the pushback that such an order would generate. The president expressed hope that the Supreme Court would view his order through the lens of trying to save the nation through secure elections. Now, I'm sorry, but for me, I'll be honest with you, I would be looking at it from the constitutional point of view and just be like, yeah, no, you can't do that. Regardless of whether or not I believe that's the way. But he continued on another post, and he's like, excuse me. He says, these corrupt and deranged Democrats, if they ever gain power, will not only be adding 2 states to our roster of 50, with all the baggage there too, but will also pack the court with a total of 21 Supreme Court justices, their dream, in which they will submit easily and rapidly when they try immediately move to terminate the filibuster, probably within their first week or sooner. Our country will never be the same if they allow these demented and evil people to knowingly, happily destroy it. Well, there's no lie, really, in that statement at all. You know? Yeah. So, yeah. This is not going to go away. And it shouldn't. It shouldn't go away. It needs to be taken care of. And this is something that, everybody, regardless of whether you're a Republican or Democrat, a conservative, an independent, you should all be behind voter ID to secure our elections and make sure that everything that we do secure-wise or elections-wise is secure and safe and everything else. Because as we all know, 2020 was not secure at all. No. Palms are us. Points out, I wonder where the country would be now without Trump. Oh, we'd be in the crapper. If we had Kamala Harris and her stupid lapdog walls, oh my Lord. Yeah, we would be overrun with illegal aliens. We would no longer have a country anymore. It would be gone. We'd have no borders. We'd have no, our economy would be in the tank. We'd probably be bankrupt by now. Let's see, what else? The Constitution would have been ripped up and thrown away at this point. Yeah. Believe me, I mean, Donald Trump, hey, as much as I'm ripping on him for this, Donald Trump saved us. He saved us from the Hildebeest, and he saved us from cackling Kamala Harris, who has played solitaire on her computer reportedly, rather than handling things that the vice president actually does. So, hey, I'm okay with that. I'm good. I'm good with that. Anyway. All right. Let's go ahead and let me do an ad spot. It's been a little bit. Let's do an ad spot real quick here. All right. So, I drink this elixir every morning. I drink it because I need it. I do. I roll out of bed early. I'm not really what I would consider a morning person, even though a lot of people say that I'm a morning person. They're like, oh yeah, you're normally up in the morning. Well, the reason I'm up in the morning is because I have to go to work that early. Drives me nuts. But I put this wonderful elixir in my cup, and it's called coffee. And if you still haven't tried 1775 coffee, now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit is available. There are only 1,000 units. Well, it's probably less than that now. But anyway, in each unit, you're going to be receiving the bold dark roast that hits hard. You'll be receiving the smooth medium roast and the Vitality Mushroom Coffee for clean energy and laser focus that has no crash. All of these coffees are single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, you're also going to be receiving the gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up not only your coffee, but also your mother-in-law's opinions. And you'll be getting a black 1775 tumbler. It's $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for just $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 Coffee blow up on Rumble and wondering if it's actually worth it. Well, spoiler alert, it is. Go to 1775 Coffee. That's the number 1, the number 7, the number 7, the number 5. The word coffee, all together, all one word, 1775coffee.com/studio, STUDIO. And grab your starter kit before they are gone. That's 1775coffee.com/studio. And grab your starter kit. Because remember, 1775 coffee is so strong, it will wake the dead. So they cannot vote Democrat. And according to my Whiskey Warrior G, that was, by the way, my unofficial producer, Nanner, Wooden's G says 1775 coffee, the brew that Washington chose to melt the river when he crossed the Delaware. And David Cheney over on Facebook chimes in by saying, it tastes like freedom. That's right, 1775coffee.com/studio. 1775coffee.com/studio. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and get yours today. All righty. Well, you know what? Yeah, before we get going here, let's go ahead and do the, wait a minute. What am I on here? Yeah, let's go ahead and do this. Let's go highlighting America. All right, for tonight's Highlighting America, I have a fantastic video. It's stuff like this that makes you feel in your heart that that America does have promise, that our youngsters do have promise, that not everybody has turned into a leftist lunatic because of the election or the educational system, I should say, because of the educational system. So this was pushed out by Graham Allen. Now, I'm not usually a follower of his, but he does pop up in my Facebook feed every once in a while. And he's got this fantastic video. Apparently, the video is of a baseball game between Clemson and Army. And, well, I got to tell you, you know, being a veteran myself, we always want to make sure that we honor our veterans. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at what Clemson does with when it has veterans in the stands. Take a look.
Really, one of the really cool traditions in college baseball was instituted a year ago by Eric Bakich in Clemson. All the players not in the lineup today are now making their way into the stands. They're asking all the military veterans who have served to stand, and they go out and just basically go one by one and thank each and every one of them for their service.
Well, it's one of the culture things that Coach Bakich does. Now, here, look at the Army. The Army team doing the same thing.
Yeah.
How cool is this?
Look at this.
Nice. Well done.
Army's making their way up as well.
Well done, Coach Trask. Just buying into what Clemson is doing. See Nick Schnabel.
So there you go. Clemson and Army. Here, I'll go ahead and run it again.
Really, one of the really cool traditions in college baseball was instituted a year ago by Eric Bakich in Clemson. All the players not in the lineup today are now making their way into the stands. They're asking all the military veterans who have served to stand, and they go out and just basically go one by one and thank each and every one of them for their service.
So apparently what happened is the coach for Clemson a year ago had started making his players in the fourth inning. So this is in the fourth inning. They ask for all of the veterans in the stands at their games to stand up and be recognized. And again, just to follow along with what the announcers were saying, what they do is the players that are not part of the lineup, they get up, they run off into the stands, they go to each and every veteran who is standing in the stands, shake their hand and say thank you for your service. Now, at this particular game, again, they were playing the United States Army. So at this particular game, not to be outdone by Clemson, the United States Army team did the exact same thing. And they sent all of their people who were not part of the lineup or not part out on the field. They went and sent their team up into the stands to go and thank their U.S. veterans. Folks, this is what America is all about. This is what the segment highlighting America is supposed to be. Demonstrating and rewarding good actions, things that Americans do that just average, everyday Americans are doing to make our country even better. So hat tip to Graham Allen for this video, but also hat tip to the Clemson baseball team for doing this fantastic thing for all of the veterans in the stands. It is just fantastic. These young men, because this was men's baseball, these young men are demonstrating how wonderful this country can be if all we do is get back to our American values, roots, and principles. That's right. So that is tonight's Highlighting America. All right. let's get on with it. I've got I got a clock right here, and I got a clock up there, and I got a clock over there, and I got clocks all over the place, man. I can't seem to stay on time. Anyway, what is un-American? Well, I'll tell you what's un-American. What's un-American is weaponizing the American government against its own people. And that's exactly what happened in the 4 years prior to President Trump coming back into office for his second term. This in just the news. Apparently, the Christopher Wray FBI opened up 1,200 assessments of sensitive figures. Like politicians, journalists, and clergy? What the hell? So these assessments were created in 2008. These quote-unquote assessments were created in 2008. Who was in president in 2008? Let's see. What was the guy's name? Oh, I think the guy's name was Barack Obama. So anyway, this idea of assessments was created in 2008 as a special investigative tool for the FBI that require no factuals to predicate any kind of a launch and permit the agents to go ahead and use a wide range of investigative techniques. In other words, these quote-unquote assessments were created by an administration who wanted to weaponize the FBI against their political opponents. Do you remember how he did this with the IRS, where he weaponized the IRS to go after the nonprofit organizations that were conservative in nature? Yeah. Well, Christopher Wray apparently used that same ruling or same rule to open up probes into politicians, journalists, religious leaders, academics, and others who were tied to sensitive investigative matters. Yeah. So there was a government accountability report that reported on this. The GAO report, which was obtained by Just the News, where I'm reading from, hat tip to them, was published last month. I didn't hear anything about this in the news. Did you hear anything about this in the news? No, of course not. Of course not. Because, well, the mainstream media doesn't want the American people to know that their government is weaponized and been weaponized against them in the past. So this GAO report, which is the Government Accountability Office, was published last month. It was titled FBI Investigative Activities, Oversight Efforts of Opening and Conducting Assessments Should Be Strengthened. So the report, which assists in congressional oversight of the executive branch, it provided details on the roughly, now here, I said 1,200. Here's the assessments that started. 127,000 assessments that were all open from 2018 to 2024. The vast majority of which were eventually closed without any accusations of any wrongdoing or criminal charges against the targets being scrutinized. Now, the 57-page report from the GAO did not include any names of those targeted for assessments, but among the total assessments, 1,200 were what was left after they opened up 127,000. 1,200 were what they were able to find things on. Now, these 1,200 related to what they called sensitive investigative matters. They targeted other public officials, news organizations, houses of worship, members of academia, which the Bureau views as more sensitive in nature. The so-called assessments, were provided by the FBI, an investigative tool short of opening a full-fledged investigation, which, of course, a full-fledged investigation requires a factual predicate. So in other words, these assessments could be made just by somebody anonymously calling a tip line. Anonymously calling a tip line and saying, hey, we think there's something wrong here. You believe that? Can you believe that? I can't even imagine. These assessments were used by the Bureau to address a potential threat to national security or a potential violation of federal criminal law. I seem to recall something like, I don't know, the Fourth Amendment, where you have to have, verified attestable evidence before you can swear out a warrant to search somebody's house. Yeah. Anyway, these assessments allow FBI agents to open probes on authorized matters, but without any kind of a factual basis, and allow them to employ investigative such techniques as physical surveillance on subjects. Wait. I'm under an assessment and with no warrant, no anything, you can have physical surveillance on these people? Really? And then, by the way, if this assessment comes back with sufficient basis, then what ends up happening is it can turn into preliminary investigations, full investigations, or even enterprise investigations. Now, keep in mind, most assessments, like I just pointed out, 127,000 were open, 1,200 continued. Most of them are closed without meeting the standards for a full inquiry by the Bureau. But I don't seem to recall in the Constitution, I don't seem to recall this ability. In fact, I'm fairly certain it doesn't exist. That being able to be under surveillance or being put under surveillance with no warrant for an American citizen does violate my constitutional right to be secure in both my persons, papers, house, etc. I mean, seriously. This is nuts. And you sit here and you tell me that the American government is not weaponized against Americans? Now, granted, keep in mind, I mean, this was Obama that created it, and it was the Biden administration that pretty much covered a lot of it. So it seems to be slanted towards the Democrats in terms of the use of this thing. But this is something that's got to go. And according to the GAO, this is what the GAO found is this. The Federal Bureau of Investigation can open assessments with an authorized purpose and clearly defined objective and without a particularly factual predication. An assessment may be conducted to collect information or facts to determine if there's a criminal or national security threat and requires the FBI to use the least intrusive method to obtain information. Our analysis of FBI data found that from 2018 through 2024, the FBI opened and subsequently closed about 127,000 assessments. Of these assessments, about 14% of the Type 3 assessments were converted into an investigation, which has different requirements to open. And again, the title of this report is Oversight Efforts of Opening and Conducting Assessments Should Be Strengthened. In other words, we need more accountability from our government in opening up these assessments on the American people. Now, keep in mind, there wasn't any listing of who these assessments were for or under or any of that. But still, the point being is like, oh my God, the FBI can just receive a tip somewhere, and then they can all of a sudden, the least intrusive method. Oh, they can assign somebody to follow you around. They could assign somebody, by the way, they could assign somebody to watch this program and determine whether or not I am some sort of a risk. If I'm in some sort of a sensitive manner for this. Mm-hmm. Anyway. How nuts is that? Talk about governmental overreach. Seriously. Talk about governmental overreach. I can't even imagine it. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is almost like red flag laws. You know, for weapons. Oh, all of a sudden somebody says, hey, he's a little bit unstable. We should go and abscond with his guns because we think he's unstable. There's nothing. There's nothing there. There's no evidence, no trial, no, presenting of evidence or defending yourself. You just automatically, under red flag laws, get your weapons taken away. Anyway. All right. Well, we all know the Democrats have been going on and on and on and on and on and on and even on more about the Epstein scandal. Well, the problem is, so far, everybody that they found, everyone that they found has been tied to the Democrats. And here, yet again, the Dems score another Epstein scalp. This one directly tied to Obama's fixer. That's Obama's White House counsel, Catherine Rumler. You remember her from all of the scandals and everything else that was around. So, anyway, so the Democrats, of course, took up all the Epstein files cause to start taking political scalps, except they're only scalping the Democrats. So Kathy Rumler, who was a top lawyer at a storied investment bank called Goldman Sachs, she was also a former White House counsel to President Barack Obama. She announced her resignation on Thursday after emails between her and Jeffrey Epstein showed a close relationship, where she described Epstein as an older brother and, of course, downplayed his sex crimes. Rumler said in a statement that she would step down as chief legal officer and general counsel of Goldman Sachs as of June 30th, 2026. Up until her resignation, Rumler has repeatedly tried to distance herself from the emails and other correspondence and had been defiant that she would not resign from the Goldman Sachs top legal post, which she has held since 2020. Rumler called Epstein a monster in recent statements, but she had a much different relationship with Epstein prior to when he was arrested a second time for sex crimes in 2019, and then, of course, later killed himself in a New York jail. Rumler called Epstein, quote, Uncle Jeffrey in the emails and said that she adored him. Now, why is it that the left is not talking about this? Why is it that the left is, so tied up on Trump with all of this when there is literally no evidence of Trump being with any Epstein victims? That there is irrefutable evidence that Trump not only kicked Epstein out of his Mar-a-Lago estate or club, but also that he helped and assisted with federal law enforcement and actually state law enforcement, not federal, but state law enforcement during the first Epstein trial. There's irrefutable testimony from Epstein's victims that all say the exact same thing. No, Donald Trump was never seen on either the island or at his home or doing anything nefarious or untoward with any of the victims. And that nobody had even heard anything hearsay-wise, but yet the left keeps jumping on the bandwagon. They're all like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Trump's name 38,000 times in the emails, but the context of what he was being mentioned for is not even close. And here you have Obama's fixer calling Epstein Uncle Jeffrey. Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, those emails came shortly after Rumler had left the White House and long after he'd been convicted of sex offenses in Florida. It also came in response to Jeffrey Epstein acting more like a sugar daddy than an uncle. Yeah. Apparently, during her time in private practice after leaving the White House in 2014, Rumler received several expensive gifts from Epstein, including luxury handbags, a fur coat, the files revealed. Gifts were given after Epstein had already been convicted of sex crimes in 2008 and was registered as a sex offender. She wrote to him in 2018 in the emails, so lovely and thoughtful. Thank you to Uncle Jeffrey. Really? Really? And yet, the left seems to continually want to go after Donald Trump when there's nothing there. Yeah. Well, not only that, but we also have Steve Bannon. Now, I don't know if anybody watches Steve Bannon's War Room. If you do, just chalk it up as kind of like the National Enquirer, basically a joke. I mean, if anybody watches Steve Bannon with any kind of like sense of, well, he may be right about, no, don't. The guy, in my personal opinion, if you were to ask me, no, don't ever watch him. I mean, if it was bad enough that he got sued and lost in court about his whole thing with the Sandy Hook, okay, claims that he made about Sandy Hook. Again, Steve Bannon's just another one of those who was on the bandwagon and then just dropped off for some reason, sort of like Candace Owens, among a few others. But anyway, yeah. So the Wall Street Journal takes a look at the scorecard for the Dems so far. So Rumler just gets added to the list of the other figures over the Epstein ties. Paul Weiss's former chairman, Brad Karp, vacated his leadership role earlier this month. And former J.P. Morgan Chase banker and former Barclays CEO, Jess Staley, former Harvard president, Larry Summers, and Apollo Global Management co-founder, Leon Black, are also among the men who his friendships with Epstein have led to public retreats since his arrest in 2019. So, yeah. Go ahead, keep going, Democrats. I'm just saying, keep going, Democrats. So, just keep going. Please. You'll clean out your own party. For sure. All right. Well, one more thing that the here, hold on. Yeah, no, that's fine. We'll move on. One other thing that the left is not going to release is the fantastic, and I'm going to say fantastic given the last 4 years, but the fantastic numbers that we're seeing on the Trump economy. So, the Trump economy has posted some good numbers this week in terms of the month of January. So gas prices have fallen in January. Now, electricity and utility gas service prices did go higher. So as from the energy sector, we did get a relief from gasoline prices. And the latest inflation data from the Labor Department shows that that gas has declined substantially over the last year. According to the Bureau of Labor of Statistics, yesterday released the Consumer Price Index for January, which showed that headline inflation was up 2.4 from a year ago, but core CPI, which excludes volatile measurements such as food and energy, was up 2.5. Now, keep in mind, none of these were as expected. They came in lower than expected. Now, the index for all types of gasoline showed that prices have fallen 3.2% in the month of January and are down 7.5% just in the last year. Energy prices fell 1.5% in January and have largely remained flat over the last year. So, yeah, these are some good things, folks. These are some good things. Now, the U.S. Energy Information Administration and Federal Reserve showed the average price of gas nationwide was $2.90 a gallon as of February 10th. Now, as of last year on that date, it was $3.13 a gallon, which represents a decline of about 7.3%. I'm going to show you a graph here. This is inflation over a decade. This is inflation over a decade. Take a look at this graph. I'm going to try and zoom in on it here. Probably going to get too big. Yeah, maybe there. That's good enough. Take a look at this. So look at the bumps. Let's just look at the bumps. Now, the blue is CPI. The red is CPI minus food and energy. Now, let's just take a look at these. Oh, what was happening in 2010 to 2012 all the way up to 2014? Oh, what was that? Oh, that might have been, Barack Obama. And then we hit 2016 and look at the blue line. The blue line is like really, really low right here. There's the blue line, really, really low. This is in 2015 and 2016. And then it kind of levels out a little bit, goes up a little bit, but levels out. And then what happens in 2020? Oh, Lord. The CPI all of a sudden climbs all the way to freaking 9%. Who do you think is responsible for that? Well, that would be Biden. And those Biden years, man, they added so much. And now you take a look, and things are starting to kind of come down. They're coming down a little bit. But seriously. I mean, this is ridiculous. And it's not just gas prices that are going down. The CPI, of course. Consumer prices themselves rose only 2.4, less than the expected 2.5. So, yeah. It's down 0.3 percentage points from the prior month and has been the lowest since May of 2025. The lowest since the May of 2025. And again, this is really good. This is good stuff. I mean, granted, it's not perfect. Don't get me wrong. It's not perfect, but it's good. Now, a lot of the Democrats jumped on the social media and they were talking about how, oh, yeah, you know, the American people are spending $1,000 more this year. Well, except there's only one problem. And the White House called it out, which is basically that wages for private sector workers outpaced inflation by roughly $1,400 during President Trump's first year in office, according to the White House. Now, take a look at this. This is a comparison. This chart is a comparison between Joe Biden's 4 years in office, is 48 months. And this is directly talking about real average weekly wages. And this is comparing Joe Biden, which is the blue line, in comparison to Donald Trump, which is the orange line. Now, for those of you who are on the audio portion of the program, I'll just tell you, you can head on over to rumble.com and take a look at the video, or believe me when I tell you, everything during Biden's 48 months was all below 0%, meaning that your real wages during the 4 years that Biden was in office never grew. They actually lost over the course of time. In fact, at one point, about 17 months into his administration, it was below -5%, meaning that your real wages lost over 5%. Folks, the American economy is going to take some time to revamp itself, but it's doing so. It is doing so under the Donald Trump push. Donald Trump's economic policies are helping us to recover. Now, recovery is going to be slow. It is going to be slow. But also, too, keep in mind that with inflation being lower than what was expected, and the fact that the Fed has been cutting inflation rates, okay, all of a sudden your stocks take off. Well, the stocks went into a rally mode as they found out about the January prices cooling. We already know that it tipped over 50,000 for the first time in history. And the consumer price index only rising 0.2% month over month in January, below the expectations of a 0.3 increase. All of that has caused the stock prices to actually go up. It was a market rebound yesterday, reinforcing optimism that easing price pressures could give the Federal Reserve more flexibility on interest rates in the months ahead. So you could be looking at another interest rate cut sometime in the near future. So, yeah. And all of this stuff, keep in mind, jobs report came out. There were more jobs created than what was expected. You had the unemployment rate dropped a little bit. Granted, it's still at 4.3%. It's up there, don't get me wrong, but around 4%, I mean, realistically is considered full employment, roughly. So all kinds of economic indicators are demonstrating that the Donald Trump presidency is actually good for the economy. Even with all of the tariffs that all of the leftists sat there and said, hey, the tariffs are going to raise prices. They're going to raise prices astronomically. Yeah. Nope. It hasn't materialized. Maybe Donald Trump actually knows what he's doing. For the most part. All right, folks. that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time that I go live. Also, too, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or, you know, if you're 3 Chevy, a thumb sideways across all my platforms, whether it's X, Facebook, YouTube, and, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. So one last check-in with President Predicto. Hey, President Predicto, do you think that my engagement is going to grow over the year of 2026?
I don't know, to be honest.
Oh, he doesn't know. Okay. Well, you guys can make that happen by helping me advertise across all of my platforms. We will see you Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening. And good night, everybody.